Hello, Canada and hockey fans in the United States and Newfoundland.
Kelly sends Fulford away, and there's Armstrong picking up the right side.
Lanny McDonald moves up. Into Darryl Sutter. Clark steals it, a 2-on-1, Toronto.
Here's Sundin on goal. Backhand to score! Holy mackerel!
Zednik again fires another shot. Open net, Stillman scores! Do you mind if we dance with your dates?
Stewart back defensively, gave it away. Comes in front, a quick shot, scores! Albert, he scores against the Penguins! The opening goal! Oh, get in the fast lane, Grandma! The bingo game is ready to roll!
Bringing you the finest in hockey talk, coast to coast. It's time to join Rick and Craig for Post to Post.
And we're back for another exciting edition of the Post to Post podcast. I'm Rick Geffen. With me, as always, my partner in crime, my compadre, the man with the fantastic shoes and absolutely no fashion sense, Craig Mers. Craig, how you doing today?
I totally disagree with that. I don't know. All the shoes are only 20 years old.
Oh, is that all?
But they're quality.
Quality over quantity.
And two, did you notice the jacket?
Yes.
The Columbus Clippers. In honor of, actually the Clippers are really the Cleveland Indians, or their top farm club. I mean, the Clippers are the top farm club of the Indians, so 18 of the 25 players for the Indians in the World Series came through Columbus. So it's like the Clippers North, is what I'm trying to say.
Learn something new every day.
So congrats to the Indians making it to the World Series against somebody. I can't remember what team it was.
Some team up north in Canada.
Some windy city.
Yes.
Playing.
And the Cubs. Cubs going back to the World Series for the first time in a long time.
Yeah.
In a long, long time.
Before the NHL even started.
Predictions on this one?
Like 9 years, matter of fact. If you want to tie those two together, 1917 when the NHL started. Last World Series victory was 1908. Indians were 1948.
1948, yeah.
For the Indians, last World Series victory. It's had some heartbreaks since then. 1997.
It's been a while for both teams.
Yes.
It's
almost a shame that they have to meet. I mean, it's classic, it's great, but you're like maybe one to win it one year and one to win it the next year. But, you know, as long as it's the Indians, that'll be fine.
The one thing I wish we could do is replace Joe Buck with Bob Uecker to call the game, the series.
Uecker would be fine. Joe Buck, I love Joe Buck. I think he does a good job.
Yeah, but I love Bob Uecker better.
Yeah, he could do the Indians broadcast. Bring him back.
I mean, Bob Uecker, he was fantastic in Major League.
Oh, you know, get Charlie Sheen to throw out the first pitch maybe at one of the games.
Throw him the hater, Ricky.
Yep.
Anyway, we digress. We must get into some hockey. There was a nice little game yesterday, an alumni game, with some big names in the history of the game of hockey that took to the ice. And it was the Heritage Classic alumni game between the Winnipeg Jets and the Edmonton Oilers, both teams of which joined the NHL in the 1979-1980 season.
After a short run in the
Western Hockey Association?
No.
Was it?
World Hockey Association.
World Hockey Association.
WHA, yes. The Hartford Whalers.
I haven't had enough coffee yet this morning. It's one of those crazy things. But really, you have names like Coffey, Mark Messier, Wayne Gretzky, obviously, Teemu Selanne. I mean, the list goes on and on. Names that are synonymous with, I don't want to say the golden era or golden age of hockey, but that time in the 80s that was just almost household names, a lot of those names, especially in the hockey world. But it was Teemu Selanne. 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points. I mean, that was all about him, really. Gretzky didn't do so hot.
Yeah, he says he doesn't play hockey anymore, pretty much.
Just in his fantasy camp.
Yeah, I mean, that's about it. He doesn't really play, does a lot of golfing. Now he's got a new job with the Edmonton Oilers organization and their entertainment division of that, working with the organization in the new arena.
Yeah.
So doesn't have time to skate anymore. Maybe being up in Edmonton once in a while he'll get the skates on, but it sounded like afterwards like he doesn't want to play anymore. He's a perfectionist. I'm sure he's one of those that says, you know what, even though it's a fun game, I want to win and I don't want to look bad out there.
I mean, he did have some Gretzky-esque passes yesterday. I mean, the classic Gretzky passes. Behind the back, almost no look, where he uses the glass to see his teammates versus, turning his head. But
it's probably a little tougher outdoors, though. Or maybe because of the lighting and not having the seats right there. That might be a little bit different.
Yeah, but it is
But he
Gretzky.
could do it.
He was a little different than anybody else.
Well, he has eyes in the back of his head, which
Yes.
is very difficult because he had the helmet on at times, So
Looking through those little ventilation slits type of thing. But that game happened Saturday. This afternoon, matter of fact, after we get done recording this show, will be the Heritage Classic regular season game that counts for points between the Jets and the Edmonton Oilers.
And it's just kind of weird because being down here in the U.S. and the weather's still nice. Like, wow, we're playing outdoor hockey this time of year, but they've got the weather up there. I mean, it's not in the middle of the winter. It's not a winter classic frozen tundra type of deal. It just seems strange to have a outdoor game in October, though they've done it in the past.
It is Canada.
Yeah.
A little bit cooler than it is here. Last week, the Leafs retired 17 numbers for the 100th edition of the Toronto Maple Leafs being, a hockey team. So, it was expected, this being the centennial celebration for the Maple Leafs. But there's also the 25th anniversary of what, Craig?
The Columbus Chill. Here in Columbus, OHIO. East Coast Hockey League team, which I covered, and then we wrote a book, The Chill Factor, along with Chill president David Pateson, available on Amazon.
25th anniversary of their first home game is November 1st.
Yep, at the Fairgrounds Coliseum, the building that next year celebrates 100 years of existence.
Oh, there you go.
I mean, at the time that Chill was playing there, it was one of the oldest buildings being used for hockey in the world, matter of fact. So now that the building's almost 100 years old, pretty crazy. It's also the 50th anniversary of the first pro hockey team in Columbus, which was the Columbus Checkers of the International Hockey League. And I bring this up just because people think when, these expansion teams, you can still call Columbus after 16, 17 years an expansion team or expansion city, that, oh, wow, they just don't have much of a hockey. But 50 years of hockey is pretty good. Nashville's had a long history of hockey as well.
I mean, there have been breaks. There have been breaks in Columbus's history with hockey, but
and it hasn't been at the highest level, but there has been hockey in Columbus for 50 years.
Right.
Pro hockey in Columbus for 50 years. The High State hockey team, the men's hockey team, has been around a little bit longer than that, like 52, 53 years. So it's not like we're novices here in Columbus. Unfortunately, it was at the smaller masses. We have a minor league team. You don't draw as many people. So, I mean, just let people be aware that there is hockey being played and has been played for a long time in a lot of cities. Maybe some cities, especially in the South and Southwest, that you don't know about, that have been down there for decades.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people just look at Columbus and all they see is the Blue Jackets. They don't know the history of it. They're thinking, it's not a hockey market. Well, obviously it is.
Yep.
Just maybe not at the highest level, but it's been a hockey market for a long time.
Yeah. And, Columbus is, again, you say a hockey market. It came to me last week, a week ago Saturday, second home game. Now, we know here in Columbus and around the area that, the stranglehold that Ohio State football has in this area. And they're playing a number 2 team against a number 8 team, Wisconsin. And yet the Blue Jackets drew nearly 17,000. Near sellout on a Saturday night for San Jose. And this is a team, the Blue Jackets, have had no success the past 2 seasons. So, kudos to the people that come out for the games. It is a solid market. People around the NHL, don't worry about Columbus. They're in fine shape. If only the team could do something on the ice.
Yes. And we'll get into that in our next segment. But they started off the season not so great in the first 2 games. Came back in back-to-back games and beat Chicago and Dallas. But we'll get into that in the second segment.
We also want to mention 50th anniversary of the Expansion 6.
Yes.
Remember the original 6, and then 66, 67, talk about doubling the size of the league. I was 7, 8 years old at the time. I just wondered what it was like when the old guard, said, "You're doing what? What are we doing to our league?" I'm sure once the money started rolling in for the expansion fees, it was like, okay, that's fine. But imagine doubling the size of the league in 1 year.
Yeah, and that expansion 6 included the Los Angeles Kings, the Pittsburgh Penguins, Philadelphia Flyers, St. Louis Blues, Minnesota North Stars at the time, and the Oakland, California Golden Seals.
Yeah. That's a book. I know there's been books written about them. That's a story in themselves, the whole sordid history of them. That actually touched in Columbus as well. Charlie Finley, the owner of the Oakland A's, and the gold and green uniforms and white shoes, actually had his team in white skates in the NHL level. And the Columbus Golden Seals in Columbus, his minor league team that he owned, also wore white skates for 1 year. And he...
Forgettable team.
Didn't know, yeah. First year they won 12 out of 72 games in Columbus. Second year they won 10 out of 72 games.
So, ouch.
Yeah. So and the NHL level team didn't do much better.
That is true.
But
again,
congrats and kudos to all those teams that are still around today.
Well, exactly. And you look at those teams that are still around. Obviously, Minnesota went from being the North Stars, moved to Dallas, became the Dallas Stars. Minnesota gets another franchise, the Minnesota Wild. But
even take that even further, that California moved to Cleveland and became the Cleveland Barons for a couple of seasons, who then merged with the Minnesota North Stars, who then moved to Dallas. So the Seals live in some form.
It's 6 degrees of separation, hockey edition is what it is.
Good way to put it.
But on a little bit more of a serious note.
Oh, you had to ruin everything.
I know, I had to ruin everything here. It's one thing that it's become prevalent and more in the public conscience about head injuries, traumatic brain injuries in regards to hockey players. The NFL has it in football players and whatnot. But in the New York Times, a week or two ago, article on members of Congress asking the National Hockey League Commissioner, Gary Bettman, for more concussion information about chronic traumatic encephalopathy, which is CTE, the big brain injury that does not manifest itself while a person is living. So you can't really diagnose it while they're alive. You can only do it during an autopsy. But famously, or infamously, Gary Bettman denied that there was a link between concussions and CTE back in July. At this point, how can, and I ask you, Craig, how can the commissioner of the NHL say that, whether it's in July or whether it's now, that there is no link, when it's almost been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that there is?
Well, I'm sure there's
medically.
I'm sure he's going on some studies that he's got a hold of. It's also a slippery slope for him in terms of if you admit that, then you got to worry about the lawsuits that are out there as well, and then the NHL's culpable. So he's a lawyer, so he's trying to parse his words carefully.
It's something they really need to look at and do something about. I don't know what that is.
Well, they've increased the protocol this year in the NHL, having observers at the game now, and it can take players off the ice, and that's a major step in the right direction. That so much in the past has been that relying on the team doctor who's under pressure and who's hired by a team. That's not an independent counsel, if you will. You look at these players and give them 15 minutes off the ice during the game and say, yeah, I can go in or can't go in, and the coach and the GMs are all figuratively looking over his shoulder and saying, get this player back on the ice. So having this independent look at it is a big step and a major safety issue for the players in their regard to help them out.
And it's not like the players are saying that there's no link or that they want to do away with fighting.
Let's not leave the players without any blame in this, because they won't admit to having injuries.
Right.
And that's the big problem.
Well, they don't want to
too.
come out of the game.
Yeah. And we can talk about this because James Wisniewski, when he was with the Blue Jackets a few years ago, he said it publicly in his interviews, a playoff game against Pittsburgh. He went hard in the boards, checking the boards from behind, went off the ice, looking a little bit woozy. Man, tells the doctor, my back hurts.
Yeah.
So he can go back. Because if they start looking at his head, and he admitted he was woozy out there and wasn't really had full faculties, but he told him, my back hurts. If the players aren't going to step up as well, don't put all the blame on the leagues and the commissioner and everybody else. They've got to do their part as well.
Right, and I'm not putting the 100% of the blame on the league at all. I mean, it's both sides, and you're seeing the lawsuits coming from retired players and whatnot.
In a lot of leagues.
In a lot of leagues.
Not just the NHL.
But it's one of those things that it's not that we want to wrap everybody in bubble wrap to play the game, because that obviously would take away from the game. But there has to be a serious effort to make the game maybe a little bit safer with the speed of the game. Because the game, and anybody who is a fan of hockey, no matter what your team is that you root for, you have to admit that the game has gotten so much faster.
That's going to come down on the players, though. I think it's keeping your elbows down. It's not smashing guys in the board when their backs turn and causing these concussions. Right. It's mainly on the players. It's also enforcement by the officials, and they got a tough enough job, but you have to be even stricter and make the penalties more severe.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing.
Sometimes accidents happen. You hit a guy, he goes in the board, he hits his head against the board. It happens.
Yeah,
there
are unintentional
it's the intent ones that you have to really clamp down on.
And it really, I agree with you 100% about making the penalty for hitting a player, from behind intentionally or whatnot.
Above the shoulder.
But making the penalty for that a deterrent versus, you get suspended a game or 2 games. Make it 10.
Yeah.
Make it where it really hurts a team.
You have to give it to repeat offenders as well.
Exactly. I mean, and really, whether you take money or whatever else, that's immaterial at this point to me. I think taking a player that does it intentionally, hits a player from behind, and whether it's intent to injure or not, but intentionally hits somebody from behind, doesn't make an effort to get out of the way. It's one of those things to where they really need to make it, okay, you do that, you're going to sit for 10 games, and the team can't replace you on the bench.
There's another area that involves them is the equipment as well. I'm sure there's going to be areas of improving the helmets. They're looking at, the NFL's been very proactive in finding the helmets and the right fit, so it reduces the brain swishing on your head when you get hit.
Right.
So the NHL's looking at that as well. I'm sure within the next few years you're going to find some better helmets that they can wear and are comfortable. That's the big thing. Players aren't going to wear them if it's going to hinder their play, their vision. It feels awkward on their head. They'll take the risk. They're athletes. They do that. But if you can come up with a good helmet that gives you a little bit more safety, and also just the glass and the boards and how much give there are, and whether hitting your head onto the glass causes concussions, there are ways to reduce that factor as well. So there's a lot of areas that need to be improved on, but they're slowly moving in the right direction.
Oh, and that's the thing. It needs to happen at I don't want to say it needs to happen tomorrow, but it needs to happen at maybe a little bit faster pace, is all I'm saying. But as far as making the penalty a deterrent to hitting like that, that's something that they can make immediate.
Yeah.
Immediate being, we're already into the season now, make it next season. And the thing is, if the Players Association doesn't agree with that, then they're doing a disservice to their members. Because they should not want to see, a player get injured.
Yep.
At all. But that's just my take on that.
And it's your show.
And it's our show.
Our show.
It's our show.
You hold the microphone right now.
But it's one of those things that it does need to be looked at. It needs to be looked at quickly, and something does need to be done. at a quicker pace than what is happening now. Don't wait for the NFL or anybody else to make the decision or to guide you in how you're going to do it. Lead from the front, not from behind. But we have to take our first break, as our music is letting us know at the present time. But we're going to come back on the other side, jump right into the Eastern Conference. A couple of things here and there. He's Craig. I'm Rick. This is Post to Post. Stick around.
Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
Bud Light presents Real Men of Genius.
Real Men of Genius.
Today we salute you, Mr. 80 SPF sunblock wearer.
Mr. 80 SPF sunblock wearer.
There are 24 hours in a day. You're wearing 80-hour protection. If the sun fails to go down, you'll be ready.
Don't forget the moonlight.
Your coconut-scented force field blocks out all the sun's rays and any stray rays from another sun in another galaxy.
Your star.
30 SPF, please. You might as well be wearing cooking oil.
Something smells delicious.
So crack open an ice-cold Bud Light, Mr. 80 SPF sunblock wearer. In fact, feel free to crack one open at high noon in the middle of the Sahara Desert.
Mr. 80 SPF sunblock wearer.
Bud Light Beer, Anheuser-Busch, Cartersville, Georgia.
Go ahead, make your jokes, Mr. Jokey. Joke maker.
And we're back. Post to Post, segment 2, jumping into the Eastern Conference. And before we get into some of the storylines, I know it's early in the season.
Very.
Very early in the season.
Extremely.
Extremely early in the season. Taking a quick look at the standings, and you have the Montreal Canadiens in the Atlantic Division sitting at the top with 9 points out of a possible 10. 4 wins, 1 overtime loss. Are they the cream of the crop in your estimation in the Eastern Conference right now?
No. I think Tampa Bay is still better.
Are you surprised that the Canadiens are off to that fast of a start?
Remember, they got off to a great start last year. And what's the common denominator?
They
Carey
imploded.
Price.
They imploded, yes.
Carey Price.
Very much so.
So, yeah, I mean, can they keep that up? We'll see, but I like Tampa Bay's team a lot. They're off to a 4-1 start.
Yeah, I mean, Tampa Bay, they're 1 point behind the Canadiens, and I think that, they have a very, very good shot of playing in the Eastern Conference Finals when it comes right down to it. They didn't lose a lot of guys. They have a lot of the same core still in place. Good veteran players, some good young players coming up. Red Wings sitting third in the Atlantic Division right now. 6 games played. They're 4-2-0 record. Started off the season 2 losses back to back, but have now won 4 in a row. Doing well. The Bruins. Do you think this is a year that Claude Julien, the head coach, is his seat getting hotter and hotter with each passing week?
Well, I see they're in 8th right now. Still early in the season.
8th in the conference, yeah.
I'm guessing that's about where they're going to finish, right in the 7-9,
which
maybe 7
I think
10.
would equate to Julien.
Yeah, I mean, if they don't make the playoffs, he's in trouble. But again, he's built up a lot of cred with the championships he's won and the play that they've had over the years. But at some point, do the players start tuning them out?
Exactly, that's the thing. But last Thursday, speaking of the Bruins, Boston legends Bobby Orr and Milt Schmidt. And Milt Schmidt, at 98 years old, is the oldest living former NHL player. Little trivia for you. Dropped the ceremony of the first puck at the club's home opener. I mean, Bobby Orr is synonymous with you think of Bobby Orr, the only thing you think of is that play where he's diving. Not diving to bring a penalty out, but diving across the goal line.
He got 2 minutes for embellishment.
But But no, it's iconic.
May 10th, 1970, Game 4
Yeah.
against St. Louis, Boston Garden. Early afternoon, Dan Kelly on the call, cuts across, gets the puck, scores the goal, gets tripped up, flies through the air. Now they have a statue of him flying through the air outside TD Garden.
That is, I mean, it's iconic when you look at that and you think of Bobby Orr. That's immediately the first thing you think of if you're a hockey fan. But Milt Schmidt, 98, coming out to drop the first
Just
puck. I mean,
amazing. I mean, you talk about the history of the Bruins in the NHL. I mean,
Yeah.
this man goes back
long time
into the 30s and that era of the NHL, the original six.
Right.
So that he's still around is just fantastic, and to have him there at the game and with Bobby Orr, two legends, is unbelievable.
So hats off to them, and you have to love it when a franchise brings back iconic players like that to drop the ceremonial first puck. I mean, it's one of those things to where it's kind of a reward a lot of times for whether it's charity or whatnot. You come out, you drop the first puck, blah blah blah.
And it's, I guess, it depends on the level of, I won't say notoriety, of fame that the player has that you bring back, because you always wonder, will the 12-year-old, the 20-year-old fan know who Bobby Orr is?
Yeah.
You would think in Boston, because he's such a big name, that yes, everybody knows who Bobby Orr. If you're a hockey fan, that's passed down from generation to generation.
Well,
not all of the stars are, but
I'll equate it like this: is at least using Bobby Orr and the Boston Bruins as the example. I have quite a few friends who live in Chicago that, after Chicago, they beat the Dodgers Saturday night, are now going back to the World Series for the first time in forever. I mean, these are friends of mine that never in their lifetime have they seen the Cubs go to the World Series. Never in the lifetime of their parents have the Cubs gone to the World Series. And they're crying with joy. They're overcome with joy. So it is passed down generationally, that love. So with Bobby Orr,
71 years.
So with Bobby
were they
Orr,
crying because they're
happy
because they're going to lose to the Indians?
Well, that could happen too.
Okay.
I mean, Chief Wahoo's.
Let's hope so.
Yeah.
No, I mean, the Cubs are my second favorite NHL National League team, not NHL team. Behind the Reds.
But Bobby Orr and the Boston Bruins. If you're a hockey fan and you're in Boston, I mean, you grew up a Boston fan, and it was passed down from your parents. You know who Bobby Orr is. Yeah. I mean, it's ingrained in your DNA. So that's just the way it goes. Columbus isn't quite there yet. Seeing as we do this show, we're both in Columbus, and we're doing the show in Columbus, but they're not quite there yet.
I would equate that in Columbus, if I could. Football, and the Ohio State football, everybody knows who Archie Griffin is, only two-time Heisman Trophy winner. So everybody who follows Ohio State football, which you don't, would know who Archie Griffin is.
I mean, you say Archie, the first thing I think of is the comics, but...
Yeah, well, you would, but you have a shallow mind.
I just don't follow football.
Well,
and I'll be the first to admit it. Nothing against OSU.
Oh, I think you do have a lot against OSU. And they may be torching your house after this show's over.
No, not at all. I don't.
They're going to be throwing little Buckeyes at your window.
The edible kind with the peanut butter and chocolate?
Yes. You might want those.
Yes, they're very good. But speaking of Columbus...
were we?
No, we're not, but we're kind of. I'm trying to segue into this as we go along. Obviously, the big names this year, Patrick Lane and Austin Matthews from the draft, they're doing well with their respective teams, and they seem to be getting all the press. But you look at the rookie on the Columbus Blue Jackets on defense, taken 8th overall in the 2015 draft in the first round, Zach Werenski. And last night they played their 4th game. He made the team out of training camp. He now has points in his first 4 NHL games, and that's the first time that's happened by a defenseman since Jamie McBain did it in March of 2010 with the Hurricanes.
He's also the first Blue Jackets player of any position to get points in their first 4 NHL games.
Exactly.
So that's a team record for Zach in that regard.
2 goals. Yep.
Can we say that in unison? 2 goals, 3 assists, 5 points. Both goals are on the power play.
Yep.
He's got another power play assist as well. I mean, he is standing there at the blue line and just firing shots, bullets on goal. It's either being tipped in front or it's getting through the traffic.
But that's the thing. He's accurate. I mean, he's not just like throwing it willy-nilly and it might hit the end boards, it might not. I mean, his are very accurate. They're almost like seeing eye pucks a lot of time.
And people may be shocked to hear this, but he's in the perfect system with John Tortorella to develop his game. Because Tortorella is, I want my D-men on the rush and in the offense and then go, go, go. And you're going to make mistakes. And Tortorella
he's allowing them to make the mistakes. He's giving them the leash, making it long enough.
And Werenski has obviously made a few already this season. Some really bad ones, especially in his first game.
But the big thing I've noticed with Columbus in regards to their D, and not just Zach Werenski, but both him and Seth Jones, very unafraid to jump up into the play, to carry the puck across the blue line, almost leading the rush, not just trailing the rush and jumping in with the forwards, but leading the rush. It just seems like they're, as a whole, the defensive core for the Blue Jackets are making smarter decisions than they have consistently in the past.
Werenski is on track within 4 or 5 years of being one of the top 6 defensemen in the NHL, maybe even higher. And he's only 19 right now, 2 years out of Michigan. And I say that, I saw a sequence in the preseason where he was in front of the net, he and Jack Johnson, they both just left the puck there. It was a miscommunication. It was a shot on goal on Bobrovsky. Puck came out of the zone, went back in the zone. Now the pressure's on. The forechecking is on. Werenski takes the puck. Now, a lot of the guys in that situation, a lot of veterans in that situation, is going to fire it off the glass and just get the heck out of the zone.
Yep.
He carried it out of the zone, took it through center ice, through the neutral zone, got it in, they cycled around, got a goal out of it. Now, that was a heads-up play. He made a mistake the first time. He does not get rattled. He's willing to hold on to the puck.
Well, that's the thing. He makes veteran plays. Watching him play, he's one of those guys that he's noticeable if you're looking for him, but he's so smooth that you if you look at him and you're not a fan of the Columbus Blue Jackets, you're not sitting there thinking, okay, this kid's a rookie, has played just 4 games in the NHL, and is only 19 years old. If you watch him play, I mean, he's very underrated, not getting any press because he's being overshadowed by Austin Matthews, Patrick Lane, Connor McDavid.
The forwards.
Yeah,
it's tough for D-men unless you make a mistake to get noticed.
Yeah. And with that win last night down in Dallas on the road, the Columbus Blue Jackets goaltender Sergei Bobrovsky recorded his 13th career shutout, and now is the first Blue Jackets goalie with 100 wins.
So there you go.
He hadn't thought about it when asked after the game. He was kind of surprised that he was the first goalie to get 100 wins for the Blue Jackets, but it's a nice way for the Blue Jackets after the first 2 losses to start the season, to start their road trip.
Yeah, I mean, people are going, you lose your first 2 games at home and people are going, same old Blue Jackets.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they started 0-8 last year. So it's like, you lose 3 in a row at home. If they didn't beat Chicago on Friday night, then you go on a 4-game road trip, they're 0-7 again.
Yeah, and that's the thing. They're playing a lot of tough teams on this road trip. LA, Anaheim, and San Jose coming up. But we have to take another break. We're going to come back on the other side, jump into the Western Conference, and what's going on out there. I'm Rick, he's Craig. Stick around.
Be forewarned, Post to Post comes with side effects. All hockey, all the time.
Hi, Tom Bodette using this streaming music format to fulfill my lifelong dream of being a 50s radio DJ. Here goes. Hey guys and gals, this is Tombo spinning the platters that matter at number 6 on your motel dial. Get a clean, comfy pad for the best deal you ever had. Just say, we'll leave the light on for you, the phrase that pays less. Man, that was fun. Book now at Motel6.com or on your smartphone. I'm Tom Bodette, and we'll leave the light on for you.
Man, I might just chill tonight.
Puppy monkey baby. 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 Puppy monkey baby.
Mountain Dew Kickstart. Dew, juice, caffeine.
Puppy monkey baby.
I like to keep it fresh. I like to live it up. I like to mix it up.
And we're back. Time now to dive deep into the Western Conference. And we should start out by saying congratulations to Marian Hossa. Became the 44th player in NHL history to reach the 500-goal plateau.
For the Blackhawks?
Yes, the Chicago Blackhawks. Scored a second-period power play goal against the Philadelphia Flyers last week. And he's just the fourth player, active player, I should say, to reach a milestone behind Jaromir Jagr with 749 in first. Jarome Iginla with 612 goals in second. And Alexander Ovechkin with 526. So he's actually not that far behind.
And you know how Hossa celebrated that goal? By blocking a shot and getting injured.
And getting injured.
I mean, hey, the guy's a goal scorer and trying to prevent goals for the Blackhawks. Puts his body on the line, missed the game Friday night in Columbus because of that LBI, as we call it. Lower body
injury.
Lower body injury.
The infamous LBI.
Yeah.
But he also is very close to reaching two other career milestones. At this point of his career, 7 assists shy of 600 for his career, and 7 points away from 1,100. Both of those attainable in this season for him, do you think?
Oh, yeah.
Before Christmas?
7 assists, absolutely. Unless he's injured, which he isn't. I mean, if he was out for a long period of time, 7 assists, he should have that by Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Maybe even sooner.
You can only hope. You can only hope. Now, here's a question that I have for you, because we've seen this quite a bit over the last few years in Columbus with groin injuries and goaltenders. It seems to be the Western Conference's turn. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Do I have to?
Yes.
Okay. Well, of course,
not that I want you talking about groins. It's not that I want to hear about that. But
please.
It's an injury that I don't want to say it plagues goaltenders, but we've seen it a lot. Well, it was even more than just goaltenders in Columbus.
Yeah.
For quite a long stretch.
And now the Kings have been hit. Jonathan Quick, the first game of the season, had that, as the GM had put it at the time, that groinish area injury that has him out 3 or 4 months. And now his backup, Jeff Zatkoff, got injured in practice.
Yeah.
On Saturday morning. Now he's out and been put on the injured reserve. Now the Blue Jackets hired a new strength and conditioning guru from the St. Louis Blues to help them out, almost specifically
for that reason.
For the groin injuries and the injuries that Bobrovsky has had, as much as helping out the 20 other guys on the team, he's really here to keep Bobrovsky healthy.
Right.
I don't know if it's an epidemic at all. Is it just coincidence that these happen? It happened to 2 Kings goalies. You'd have to look at the situations. One's in practice, one's in a game, so it's not. Could be the ice. It could be warm-ups. The equipment they're wearing, is not giving them enough, flexibility. Or it just happens. I don't know.
It seems like it's just happening a lot more than it used to, though. Or maybe I'm just, more cognizant of it. I don't know.
Maybe more high-profile goalies.
Yeah, could be. It's one of those things that seems to be more in the forefront now that you see it happen, or it's reported on happening more often, or better covered that way.
We need to get a goalie on here, and
yes, we need to get a goalie on here
and explain this to us. Maybe there is a specific reasoning for it. But though I'm sure if they did know it, exactly why, then people would stop doing it. And they'd find a cure for it.
That is true. That is very, very true. Mike Smith for the Arizona Coyotes, out week to week with a lower body injury. You gotta love it, the LBI. and I can never pronounce this.
Domingue.
Louis Domingue gets a start against the Rangers. It's his third straight start and fourth straight appearance since Smith had to leave the game versus the Ottawa Senators.
And Smith missed a lot of time last season, several months, I believe. One of the reasons Arizona faded from the playoff hunt. I don't know if they're ever going to make the playoffs last season, but losing him for a stretch did hurt them, and now he's out again. Has to be a concern.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of those things to where, once again, it's goalie being injured. Do you think a contributing factor to whether it's the groin injuries or whatever else, the speed of the game coming in? The goalies now have to react that much faster? I don't know.
Oh, yeah, that's a good theory. Yeah. I can't say yes or no.
We are not doctors by any stretch of the imagination.
We're not goalies either.
That is true. I was a goalkeeper for soccer way back in the day.
Soccer players have a lot of groin injuries, sports hernia surgeries. Not limited to goalkeepers at all.
No.
You would expect that in a sport where you're kicking and doing that motion all the time.
Exactly. Looking at Winnipeg, like I said, Winnipeg and Edmonton have their Heritage Classic this afternoon, the outdoor game. But Patrick Laine. Once again, Jarmo Kekalainen's going to kick my butt for mispronouncing a Finnish name.
Laine.
That's two weeks in a row that I've managed to mess this up.
You just need to keep it going.
Yes. At least I'm consistent.
Yes.
Is one way to look at it. Doing well. Got his first career hat trick.
And it's the team that he got against, which is really important here.
Against the Toronto Maple Leafs.
And not only did he get a hat trick, the Maple Leafs were leading 4-0 in this game.
Well, it is the Leafs.
Yeah, they've given up a lot of goals. But again, they're the youngest team in the league. So you might expect them to have some really loopy games.
They're, when it comes to the Maple Leafs, yes, they've got Austin Matthews. They're still a ways away from being a good team.
Well,
they've got decent players. I'm not taking anything away from that. But they're still a ways away from being a good team.
I would put it in years away or a year away from being a decent team. Yeah, just because they're so young. But the Laine had the tying goal with 55 seconds left in regulation and had the game winner in overtime. And it's important because, as we've mentioned before, he was a number 2 pick last year. And Austin Matthews,
number 1 pick.
Number 1 pick, plays for the Maple Leafs. But Laine is going to be a great character in this league because he flat out said, I thought I should have been a number 1 pick. I'm better than Austin Matthews. So here you go. The first
and he's
time
backing it up with his play, is he?
He's backing it up. The unfortunate thing is they only play twice a year.
Yeah.
So until they both reach the Stanley Cup Final.
Yeah. It won't be a rivalry.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. How do you form a rivalry when you're in two different conferences?
It's a rivalry from afar. It's going to be one of those. Okay, he's got X number of points, and he's got X number of points over here. And that's the only thing you can do. Now, McDavid and Laine will have a great rivalry going between Winnipeg and Edmonton, as we'll see today.
Yeah.
In the Heritage Classic.
Now, that one I can see.
That could be a great one.
And it's good for Winnipeg to have a player of that caliber.
Yeah. It's not necessarily great for the NHL, only because those markets are not on TV in the U.S. much. They're going to make an effort to get more. They put Matthews' second game, his home opener to the Maple Leafs, on NBCSN last week, made a special effort to do that. So they're coming around. If these young kids like Laine and Matthews and McDavid keep doing things, the TV networks will take notice.
And it's not necessarily that I want, as a hockey fan, that I want to see more Canadian teams, but I would like to see maybe a wider breadth of teams shown on NBC-SN, whether it's their Wednesday night rivalry or whatnot. But they want to draw or grow their market in the United States. What better way to do that than showcasing Austin Matthews from Scottsdale, Arizona?
If you're a star, people will be drawn to you no matter what market you're in, what your nationality is, what team you play for. The NBA is star-driven. It's not team-driven.
Right.
The teams are ancillary product of it. And they've been that way for years, ever since the Magic and Bird. That really changed the whole factor. Everybody wanted to see them play. Oh, yeah, then it's the Lakers and Celtics. And they became good teams.
Right.
So.
Also talking about Line 18 years old, 18 years, 183 days when he recorded that hat trick. Became the youngest player in the history of the Winnipeg Jets / Atlanta Thrashers to record a hat trick. And who previously held that record?
Ilya Kovalchuk.
Kovalchuk, who was 19 years, 235 years old, or 235 days old, December 6, 2002, at the Washington Capitals. Wow, 235 years. Wow, I need more coffee. I really, really think I do at this point. In your estimation, is Laine better or at least equal to Austin Matthews? I mean, you're comparing apples to apples, really. One's from Finland, one's from the United States, but...
What did we say earlier? It's too early. I mean, you really can't judge anything.
I'm trying to pin you down. So. Well, I have to try, at least.
I don't play that game.
Here's the thing. You look at least in my mind, you look at the teams that, and obviously it's the way the draft goes for the NHL. You finish worst, you get the first overall pick, and so on down the line.
Close to it.
But you look at where all these, and I'm using the air quotes because our listeners can see that. These star players, these potential star players, they're going to Winnipeg, Toronto, Edmonton. In Edmonton, they've been a train wreck for a long time. Toronto, under Mike Babcock, I think it's going to turn around sooner rather than later. Winnipeg, it's good for them. But, why is the NHL or at least the broadcast arm of it, the NBC Sports Network, not showcasing that?
Well, it's going to take some time because you go with the familiarity of it. And unfortunately, that's the way it is. The people are going to gravitate to the big team. That's why they show the Yankees and Red Sox every Sunday night, baseball on ESPN, it seems like, because that's the teams you want to see, unfortunately.
Well, I think it falls back, unfortunately, to, at least when it comes to broadcast, they look at, who are the big television markets, and they cater to them, which to me discounts everybody else in the United States.
But they found their niche with this the Wednesday night rivalry. I mean, the ratings go up in the past couple of years doing that, and that's, everybody knows that Wednesday nights there's a hockey game on. Now, sometimes they have to...
But it's a lot of the same teams.
They have to fudge the rivalries a bit. I mean, they had like Minnesota and Boston, a long-time rivalry back deal. That's not really a rivalry you would expect. But, yeah, it's a lot of the same teams. Absolutely. It's that way in every sport. Cowboys are big on, for all those years they've been terrible. They're always on CBS or national TV on a Monday night or a Sunday night.
That is true. I mean, it's...
Patriots are a big draw. Steelers are a big draw. The St. Louis / now LA Rams are not. Cleveland Browns, never.
No.
So,
and it's one of those things. I understand when they don't want to have a team that's mired at the bottom of the standings, whether it's in their division or in their conference. I get that. But if you look, and I think I can say this with as much unbiasedness as I can here in the next 10 seconds before we take another break, Columbus and Pittsburgh are always good games.
Yeah.
They would make for great television. Rivalry night. It's a rivalry in everything but the name. I mean, but, we have to take another break. I'd like to see that NBCSN. You're on notice. I'm Rick. He's Craig. We're coming back and going under review. Stick around.
If it's too loud, you're too old and probably need to be wearing adult diapers.
You know what the NHL stands for? Non-stop hockey love.
Hockey love.
Like when the Thrashers score a goal and those giant bird heads shoot flames 20 feet out of their mouths, you can feel the warmth fall over you.
Can you feel
That's hockey love.
The hockey love.
Or when a player is sent to the penalty box to think about the wrongs he has done. That is the league version of sending a kid to a timeout. Done with tough hockey love.
From Midtown to Marietta, Jonesboro to Alpharetta.
Sometimes in between periods, they have little tykes hockey, little kids playing hockey in their little Thrashers uniforms. They try so hard and their parents are so proud, so full of hockey love.
I'm talking about hockey love.
I wish I could go out there and play against them. I bet I could kick some ass. All right.
If there's anything more important than my ego on this ship, I want to cut and shut right now.
And we're back for the final segment of this week's episode of Post to Post, the podcast, the sweetest smelling podcast in the world. I have to say that. I'm Rick Gethin. With me, as always, Craig Mers. Time to go under review. This week, under review, we're going to start Bobby Orr. We were talking about Bobby Orr before.
Yep.
But Bobby Orr wants to bring back the red line into the game of hockey. To help make it more interesting. Maybe increase scoring, do this, do that. For our listeners that don't know what the red line is, give them a quick primer on what that all relates to and how it relates to the game of hockey.
Well, it's a red line. It's center ice. You have your blue line into each of the zones. Center ice, which is a neutral zone. That's where you have the face-off. It's also used for icing. You have to cross the red line, dump the puck into the zone. But in terms of passing the puck, in the old days, you couldn't take the puck from behind your own goal and just shoot it all the way down to the other blue line, going into the offensive zone, and maybe even beyond that. You had to have a pass before the red line. In the old days, I just had a two-line pass, which means you take the puck from, say, in your own zone, you pass it over the blue line, then you pass it over the red line, then you have to skate into the zone over the other blue line. I know you're all confused. Well, basically, it broke up long outlet stretch passes.
It put a premium on skill, on being able to pass the puck, handle the puck. And as Bobby Orr says, quote, I think the game is fine. My only concern with the game today is these guys are so big and so fast, and we're so open. Look at the injuries we have, and I've been saying this, and many people get upset with me when I say it, but I think somehow we've got to slow the game down a little bit. And the only way you can do that is to put the center line back in, unquote.
Now, here's why it was taken out. Because of all the neutral zone traps and the off-wing traps and everything, players were getting stuck. They couldn't, watching the Devils play in the mid-'90s, teams couldn't do anything. They couldn't get up the ice.
Yeah.
If you have to have that short pass before the red line and then try to get through that whole muckety-muck in the center ice. So they said, well, if we just make long pass, cherry picking in basketball, for those familiar with just, throw the ball downfield, down the court. So that was supposed to open up the game, which it has. It's also created these long passes that turn into icings. It's also created plays where you're just throwing it down the ice as far as you can, and then players chase after it, taking some of the skill of it out of the game. It's also created where you're throwing a pass out there towards center ice, past the red line, guys are racing after the puck, a defender is coming, and you're having some hellacious collisions. And that's what Orr's talking about. The game is so fast, and guys are coming at each other so fast that if you put in the red line, suddenly you reduce the amount of space that guys are traveling.
Yeah, exactly.
Plus, again, you got to bring the puck out and use a little bit of skill to get past the red line and then dump it into the zone.
What are your thoughts on it?
I don't know. I always thought the red line was a hindrance. Maybe I've been wrong all these years. I thought it had the good intentions to take it out.
I mean, I did not. I've never cared for the neutral zone trap, of which Lou Lamoriello, when he was with the Devils, was a master at having his teams, basically they were when you thought neutral zone trap, you thought of the New Jersey Devils and Lou Lamoriello. But I agree with Bobby Orr in that it's going to, one, slow the game down a little bit, which, as fast as it is right now, might, and I stress the word might, help cut down on some of the injuries. But two, you're going to see more skill put on display. So in that regard, I do agree with Bobby Orr.
But haven't we just been talking about all the young players and the fast, quick, skillful players coming in the league? Will that reduce that? I mean, the league seems to be more wide open. There's been a lot of high-scoring games so far this year. Everybody loved Team North America in the World Cup of Hockey because they were so fast and getting up the ice.
Right.
Does that affect it at all? The fact that now they've got to wait and get the puck through the neutral zone before they really take off?
I don't know, but maybe a serious look needs to be taken.
And Orr made another good point, I thought, in favor of the red line, is that might increase the amount of forechecking going on to keep the puck into the zone. And if you have a good forecheck, what does that lead to? Offensive chances.
Yes.
You know, good defense could lead to offense. So maybe he's onto something there, that the game will increase the scoring. I mean, that's one factor. Obviously, we'll spend a whole segment some other day talking about goalie equipment and other things like that. But I think the league may look at it again.
Like I said, I think a serious look needs to be taken at that, and that's just what I think. So in that regard, I do agree with Bobby Orr. As fast as the game has become, I would much rather see the skill put on display
than the speed. Maybe
than the speed.
If that, I don't even know if that makes sense, but it sounds like it makes sense.
I mean, they're not mutually exclusive.
Yeah,
speed and skill. I mean, we're seeing speed and skill together right now, but it's a few players that have that truly have that huge speed and the skill to go with it.
Burst to go in there, yeah.
But if you take and find a way to slow the game down, I think you would see more players have the skill, whether it's passing, stick handling, whatever.
There needs to be better, like you said, handling of the puck. And play to be able to make moves and stick-to-stick passes and handle the pressure. I don't necessarily think you'd see a return of the neutral zone trap. Maybe a modification of it, but also somebody will find a way.
Somebody will find a way.
Yeah, and then you win a Stanley Cup, and everybody will follow.
That is true.
Unfortunately,
that is very true. Martin Brodeur, great goaltender, arguably, of the New Jersey Devils. They dedicated a statue outside the Rock, the Prudential Arena. 44 years old. I can't believe Martin. I always thought he was a little bit older than that. But he's been around for so long that you think he's old. He's only 44 years old. Honored prior to the Devils game against the Minnesota Wild Saturday night in a ceremony that was attended by a few hundred fans, and it was damp and drizzly. Do you think that statue was long overdue for him?
Well, I mean, he hasn't been retired that long.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, it's well due. I'll put it that way.
Well due.
Well due and well deserved.
I mean, I know one true Devils fan, and that's Greg Wyshynski, Puck Daddy. So I'm sure he's happy. But I think it's well deserved. He's earned it. I mean, Brodeur,
with the Stanley Cup he's won with that franchise.
Yeah, I mean, he's arguably one of the greatest dark goaltenders in the history of the league.
Yep.
Any way you look at it. So that. In that regard, it is well deserved. And one thing we do have to real quickly, and we've got like 10 seconds or so, have to say to the to all of our fans listening, if you've never been to Joe Louis Arena, find a way to get there. Because this is the last season they're playing. They've already played their last home opener at the Joe. Because they're gonna go Pizza Arena after this. But paying homage to Gordie Howe, one of the greatest Red Wings in the history of that franchise.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it.
It's time for Rick and Craig to go back in the penalty box, but they'll be back again next week for another round of hard-checking puck talk.
And once again, an hour flies by, and Post to Post must go away for another 7 days. But we had fun, as we always do. Maybe we'll get a guest on for next week. Maybe we won't. You never know. You never know what's going to happen here. But as always, we'll bring you our take on the week that was in the NHL. So for Craig Mers, I'm Red Geffen. We'll see you next week.
Well, I hope you folks enjoyed yourselves. Catch you later on down the trail.